Lyle, what is your grade for Jared Kelenic?
I gave him a B minus. What'd you? I'm curious to hear yours. What did you give him?
I gave him a C.
C. Okay, so my reasoning here is: did he put together some over the top season over the course of 162 games? No. But I am looking at where he was in his first couple of seasons versus where he is now. His WRC plus in his first 2 seasons in the big leagues, it did not get above 80. Like, he really struggled. So not only did he not get demoted at all this year, he played a full season in the big leagues sans the injury. But his WRC plus for the year was 108. His OPS was 746, which is not otherworldly, but it's about league average. 750 is around the league average. Actually, it might be even a little lower now. It's around 740 to 750. By B-WAR, I know a lot of the time we use F-WAR. By B-WAR, he put up a 2-WAR season, and was a lot of that anchored by his first 6 weeks? Of course. But 2 wins is 2 wins. So can Jared do more next year to build on this? Absolutely. Can he still be a star player? Absolutely. He is 24. Adley Rutschman wasn't even this old when he debuted, or maybe he was just this old. There's plenty of time. And he was not perfect. But I do think for where he was compared to the steps he made this year, he took some major strides forward.
I'm not giving him a C because I guess I'm a slight bit more pessimistic on Jared as you do. I actually thought he was turning his season around. I think you and I both agree in July. He was starting to have some better at-bats. His process looked a little bit better in July before he got hurt. Him getting hurt's a big reason for this grade. His grade could be totally different if he didn't put himself out for 2 months. Plain and simple. That affects his grade here. He was a semi-valuable part of this Mariners team. We were bummed when he was out of the lineup. And they missed him when he was out of the lineup. They had to go trade for Dom Canzone, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Overall, as you mentioned, the season was fine. If you gave these numbers at the beginning of the season, given the context of Jared's career, you'd probably take it. Couple things, though, if we'll nitpick about his offensive season. So Jared, in his current offensive profile, is a power hitter. We talked preseason that maybe he goes back to a little bit more of a contact-oriented approach, what he did in the minors, spray the ball around the yard, hit 20 to 25 home runs, and do what made him great as a prospect. Well, that wasn't really the case this season. He was spraying the ball around, but the problem is Jared was striking out overall this season 31% of the time. Now, it is carried by May and June that he struck out quite a lot, 34, nearly 35% in May and 38% in June. However, those numbers were coming down a little bit in July. I think he was like 25% in July before he got hurt. Smaller sample, but still checks out. But he didn't hit a home run since June 9th. He went from June 9th through the final 47 games of the season without hitting a home run. For his profile, for what he is as a hitter, and what the amount of times he strikes out at the plate, and the fact he's like a slightly above average base on ball guy, 9.9%. I think that's slightly above average. But the power profile sort of disappeared. And when you strike out that much, you can't just not do damage. And that was an issue for me because that was totally against the other results he produces at the plate. So that's why I'm very conflicted on what kind of grade I gave him. So I just went right smack in the middle with a C. And oh, by the way, his defense actually graded out exactly average, 0 outs above average this season, which you'd think would probably be a little bit better because we generally think his speed leads to better defense. But I guess Baseball Savant didn't think so.
He had 3 defensive runs saved, so DRS likes him more than OAA, to be fair.
So it's like slightly above average.
3 defensive runs saved is a perfectly fine year. It's not a Gold Glover, but it's a good year.
It's slightly above average.
All right, I think it's good enough. I did not grade him.
It is good enough. You're right. It is that is good enough. I'm just not saying like his defense wasn't like a like shining star on his season. I'll say that.
All right, and that's fair. I did not take the injury into account. I graded him just on the games he was on the field. Now, if I had, his grade would be knocked down. So you graded him
So,
with the
can I get
injury.
some reasoning on why I did that? Normally, injuries are something you can't control. If you pull a hamstring running down first base, there's nothing you can do with that.
Yeah,
But this injury was 1000% Jared's fault, and they missed him.
yeah.
So that's on him. It was 100% in his control.
That is 100% correct. And again, if I had judged his season with the injury factor taken into account, it'd be lower. I just didn't do that. And for some of the reasons you outlined, the fact he stopped hitting homers the second half of the year, the fact his season was very, very dependent on his first 6 weeks, that's why he's at a B minus. He's not getting a higher grade despite taking a lot of big steps forward this year. But I do think it should not be lost on people that in year 3, in his age 23 season, which again is still not old for all you people out there, in case you're forgetting, there are most college guys that are first rounders don't get up till they're about 24. He was a slightly above league average hitter. He played above league average defense. He could run, put up a 2 B war season. Again, 2 wins is not nothing. And he has room to improve. So again, he's not getting an A, but he is getting a grade that says, yeah, I believe in where he's going. The point of the matter is, we do not know again after year 3 whether he is truly good or not. We're going to have to
Yeah,
see again in
correct. That
2024.
we agree on.
Yes, we still don't know. I think he is showing potential. There's no doubt he showed potential in April. He lit the world on fire. And I think he's showing the tools to be a very impactful player on the team. I still think in his age 24 season, he could do that. But in 2023, it was just a little up and down.
I came out of this analysis on his season, like wondering is he getting a starting role next year?
Depends what they do this winter.
I know.
Right
But like
now,
I think yeah, it like makes my stomach a little uneasy that again, 3 seasons in, still don't know if we'd be confident enough to put him as a starter. I would say not entirely, especially how they used him down the stretch. Even though, by the way, one plus of his season hit lefties pretty well. 115 WRC plus against lefties this season as a lefty hitter. Also struck out less against lefties, by the way. And yet down the stretch, they still used him as a platoon bat. It would only put him in against righties. Go figure that.
that doesn't make much sense. Again, he should have been playing every day down the stretch. I will
Yes,
not
he should have.
understand. Did not understand that. So the Mariners, as we said, don't have Teoscar Hernandez. We'll see if he comes back. It's seeming like he's not, based on his very public Twitter likes. So as of right now, it'd be Julio in center and it'd be Jared Kelenic in left field. Right now, Kelenic would be a starter. In a perfect world, you're right. If you could go get 2 much more proven bats, and he could be a 4th outfielder to start where you do not have to rely on him to have a good season. But if he takes the opportunity where he's on the roster, the days he plays, he's playing well, which leads to a little bit more playing time and then a little more playing time and a little more playing time. And if he ends up hitting his potential, which let me be very clear, as everybody who knows that listens to this podcast understands, I'm a big Kelenic believer. I still think he can get there. So if they start him in a lesser role and he proves it, which again, I think he has a chance to, then he'd start playing more next year. But I think it's also safe to say that they would be in a better spot if they could get 2 proven bats to play the outfield spots in the corners and set it up like that. Because again, if they're serious about trying to win the World Series or contend for it, you're going to want some proven outfield bats. Hey, they should try Luis Robert.
Yeah, I like that idea. You could what if they platoon the two?
Well, then it would only cost Abe Toro. They don't get Tom
Yeah,
Costello. Abe Toro only for Luis Robert straight up.
Yep. Oh, wouldn't that be an interesting conundrum? Oh, what if we do give Jared Kelenic back to the White Sox fans? Do you think they'd like that? I know you wouldn't. Would they?
I don't know. He has a lot of club control. If he was in a package with all the other guys we actually dealt in there between Wu, Young, Jonathan Clase, maybe that might intrigue him a little bit more. Obviously, yeah, that would be a shot to the heart just personally for me. That being said, as we've talked about with potential trades that he's been in before, or rumored to be in before from people out there, If it was for a proven talent, of course you have to do it. I'm not going to say you have to hold on to him if it means not getting Luis Robert, of course. But yeah, it might be intriguing to him. I guess they could use any big league talent they can get at this point.
Amen to that.
But but to be clear, I think Kelnick will be on the roster next year. I absolutely still think he can live up to his potential. And I do think he took some nice strides this year. Wasn't perfect, but he took some nice strides.